right. It is for the first time, for the last time. It's the 11 Dubcast. I'm Johnny. He's George.
Yeah.
And this is it, man. After hundreds of episodes, a decade and a half, I am hitting the brakes. I'm putting on my ho-oh bindle and I'm riding that trail right out of town. So this is the last Dubcast. We're happy that you're here.
For now.
I'll probably be back.
We'll see what the near future holds.
Yeah, we're gonna make contributions. Well, I'm gonna make contributions. Obviously, George is gonna stay on the site. Peace. See ya.
Well, I don't know about obviously.
No,
I'm losing one of my biggest advocates. It could be unceremoniously removed in short order now.
George, you are a fantastic human being, and I've greatly enjoyed working with you. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. But yeah, today's going to be kind of a retrospective, I guess. Mostly me just rambling for the entire time. But I guess basically what I wanted to do, since I am, for those who don't know, I'm stepping away, not just from the Dubcast, but from 11 Warriors in general. That doesn't mean that I won't continue to be associated with the site. My name's still going to be on the masthead. I think is like I'm around, but I'm not in charge. That kind of stuff. Emeritus, that kind of deal. And it's
shadow controller, shadow operative, Johnny Ginter.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm the shadow government. I'm the man behind the scenes.
You're the Patriots of,
that's right.
of 11 Warriors.
No, I'm stepping away a little bit. I'm not going to be a regular contributor 11 Warriors. If something crazy happens, so let's say Michigan gets the death penalty, that would be a time to revive threat level, and I will make an appearance. If Ohio State wins a national championship, that kind of stuff, I'll be around. All right, just for clarity's sake. But I won't be writing on a regular basis. I won't be on the Dubcast. So just as a heads up on that, I do want to talk about that just quickly. I've loved being associated with writing for, working for, helping, be a co-owner and managing 11 Warriors for the past 15 years. It's been a ton of fun. I've really, really, really enjoyed it. I was actually writing a few things and kind of like reminiscing about all the random crazy stuff I've been able to be a part of. And there's just too much. I mean, there's so much to think about and to list, and it's kind of overwhelming how many opportunities I've gotten by dint of me being associated with this website. So I think that's just, first of all, like gratitude is the biggest thing on my mind. But it also kind of like makes me think about, the things that I've really enjoyed doing on a personal level. And that's writing, right? Like I really, on a week-to-week basis, I really do love writing. And about a year ago, I had my typical op-ed spot, and I was kind of thinking like, all right, what do I got to write this week? And it kind of struck me like I had this really good idea for a post, but I was like, A, I've kind of already written about this before. B, it doesn't fit anymore because the news cycle has changed a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it would have been great if I could have written about this 3 days earlier. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I was like, damn, that sucks. Like I want to be able to kind of react and write in the way that isn't necessarily in this news media kind of format. And that's nothing against 11 Warriors. It's just the website is what it is, and it requires certain content at certain times. And I just wanted a little more freedom, I guess, when it came to that. So we'll see what happens. I do have a few, I have an idea in the hopper. I've got actually a lot of ideas in the hopper, and I will be sharing those with people shortly, probably within the next week or so. But anyway, it's sad to be leaving 11 Warriors, but I am excited about being able to kind of like, do my own thing for a little bit. And, 15 years is a long time. I'll mention this a little bit later, but it's, the only thing in my life since becoming an adult that's lasted longer is my relationship with my wife. And I'm definitely, that's the thing I'm most proud of, obviously, in that time. But it's kind of crazy that it's like literally like my wife and then the website are the two longest things. Like jobs have come and gone, places where we've lived, all that kind of stuff. But it's those two things. So, it'll also be nice to have a little bit more time on the weekends to focus on the, the former, right? Like the wife part, the family part, than the other stuff. So without getting too much into it,
You could be a fan again watching Ohio State games instead of a serious pseudo journalist, you know?
I don't know that I can like change that much. It's going to be interesting to have that perspective, because you're right. Like, I'm not going to be collecting tweets during a game anymore. I'm not going to be, you know, like, okay, how do I write about this for X? It's just going to be me like falling asleep in the third quarter, but then not feeling guilty about it.
Yeah, but that's it's great to have that freedom. When Jack, this is your show. I'm not going
No,
to
no, no,
try to
no.
talk over
No,
you
I don't
much.
want to just be me talking for an hour. That's stupid.
I was working the semifinal for the CFP, and when the moment that Jack Sawyer, he didn't even pick it up and start running with it. The moment he forced that fumble on Ewers, before he even picked it, because I knew he was going to run it all the way in.
Of course.
But me understanding immediately the context, because I had thought about, like, what if he strip sacked his former roommate at Ohio State? That would be crazy. That blended with the fact that it was the end of the game and the game clinching play. Before the play was even halfway over, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be up until 5 a.m. writing about this game tonight.
Exactly.
Which is a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
But it is a labor of love all the same. But sometimes you just want to appreciate what happens as a fan without having to, you know, stay up until 5 a.m. providing content for other people about what just
not
happened.
For the sports writer, right? Like, it's still fun as hell, and it's a really, you know, it's a privilege to be able to write about this stuff.
I mean, to get paid for your opinion about this stuff is just, it's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
I'm so grateful, and I'm sure you are too, for the same reason.
Of course, but it's still difficult sometimes. It is definitely, you know, you make compromises on your time, and so I understand what you're getting with that. But I will say, 15 years, it's been a hell of a ride. It's been so much fun. You know, I'm just, like I said, I'm just thinking of like random stupid crap that I did and things that I was able to, I'm like, man, this rules. Like, it was a lot of fun. So I want to talk about some of that. So just kind of a quick trip down memory lane, and then we'll do Ask Us Anything, and I'll get to some thank yous, and we'll get out of here. I started writing 11 Warriors. I actually, 11 Warriors started in 2006, late 2006. I think my original commenter account is like number 100 something for the site. So if you think about how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have registered for 11 Warriors, my original commenting account was like 100 or 150, something like that. I was in college. I was just like trolling around looking for Ohio State websites, you know, to read and whatnot. And I was a commenter for several years. In 2010, 4 years after that, they put out a call for writers. And this is back when like 1,000 people, you know, clicked on the site in a month.
Right.
So I was sitting on my desk. I was living in Japan at the time. I was teaching English. I was sitting on my desk in between classes, and I saw that they put out a call for writers. And I'd been a commenter for a long time. They knew who I was. I had written things for other sites, including for Vico's site, Honor to Defend. I did some guest posts and stuff like that. And I submitted a post, you know, for their open call, and they, so I kind of hope, I don't know, it'll be interesting if like Jason or Chris or Ramsey listen to this. I have not told them this. I've never told anyone this. It's not that big a deal, but one day I got curious. And okay, so when we were doing, before Slack, right? We did all of our conferencing stuff through Google. Okay. And then we kept notes in Google. So I got curious about 2 or 3 years ago, and I wanted to know what they said about me after I submitted my thing. And so I went in and I found the board meeting notes for that, for when they discussed their submissions. I will not call out any of the other submissions. I will also not call out anybody on the board, but it was an interesting discussion about the pros and cons of me versus someone else.
So there were some cons in there too.
There were some cons. Yeah. One of the cons was that I was not an established writer. I was just some idiot on the internet. And they didn't know if I was crazy or not.
Did they use that term?
No. But they did say they didn't know whether or not I was like a crazy person. Like, this guy could be insane. We have no idea. Like, we don't know who he is. Like, we just know that he comments on our website a lot. And so they're like, oh, we're taking kind of a risk. Like, we could go with a more established guy. The pros is that I knew.
Can we trust this guy to interview somebody like Richard Lewis?
Yeah, that's right. Can we trust him to fumble an interview with Jim Jackson? Is that possible? Can he delete, or can he forget to record with Terry McLaurin? Can he publish? That was the other thing. And I just thought of this, the null session where I was doing skull sessions and then just published a blank one. Can he completely confuse
what year was
thousands
that?
of people on the, what year was that? I think 2012, something like that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, oh God, that's a stupid story. But yeah, I was doing, side note, I was doing skull sessions once because I used to be in charge of skull session, and I was sick and was like, I'll just write the skull session. Fell asleep immediately with the laptop on my lap, and woke up. But I had done the stupid thing where I had published it, or I had scheduled it to publish before finishing the article. And so it just published a bunch of like gibberish text, and then that was it. And
that's always been one of my great fears.
Well, George, it was the most commented on post in 11 Warriors history to that point. Like, it was literally just people dunking on me for like 100
great insight.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was awesome. And I thought about Gary Larson and his Far Side. He did a Far Side retrospective after 10 years, and he talked about his comic called Cow Tools, which like everybody was like, what the hell is this comic? I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. But he got so much more fame and notoriety for making an incomprehensible comic that nobody liked. So like, I learned from that, and I published something that nobody could read.
No publicity is bad publicity.
That's right. Exactly.
That doesn't involve felonious behavior.
That's right. Well, even that sometimes. But anyway, yeah, I got back from Japan. I was able to participate in a lot of 11 Warriors stuff. We didn't have a beat writer yet, right? Like, I mean, we were barely, like, nobody knew who the hell 11 Warriors was. I got to go to practices. I was actually a beat writer for a couple games. That was sick. I got to be in the press box and have my own little station. Zach Bourne almost ran over me at a practice once. That was cool. But yeah, it was like we were kind of like play acting, because I don't know jack about being a reporter and that stuff. But the dudes at the traditional media, Doug Maurice, Cleveland Plain Dealer, Ken Gordon, especially at the Columbus Dispatch, Tim May, all of those dudes were unbelievably chill, incredibly welcoming to us. Like, again, nobody's reading 11 Warriors at that point, but they treated all of us, including myself, like equals. They were really just open and accepting and just cool dudes, especially when like their bosses weren't, and they really went out of their way to avoid citing us or quoting us or any of that kind of stuff on things that we wrote. Tim May in particular was really funny. After a game, I parked way the hell away from the stadium, and I told him where I was at, and he's like, I'll drive it to your car. And so he drove me back to my car, and he spent the entire 15-minute ride just talking my ear off about random stuff. He was just a cool, nice guy. I always appreciated that. I thought that was really cool. So you can struggle to get credibility in this business sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, people don't want to give you credit if you're not an established. And I think that's changed somewhat, but back in the day, 20 years ago, that was not the case. 11 Warriors really had to fight for credibility.
Oh, especially in the newspaper versus blog era on the
Yeah. I mean, we got, there was the whole, people blogging from their mama's basement, stuff. And like,
I mean, that's been the coolest thing about this site, honestly, I think, is how much of a reflection of the online platforms winning that war is.
Right.
Right. Maybe not as cool if you work for the Columbus Dispatch or some other newspaper that's been acquired by an umbrella publisher.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, obviously it's not always a good thing with this atomization of media, right? Like the fact that local politics reporting has basically like disappeared. That doesn't exist. That sucks, right? That's not good. The fact that all these local newspapers have died, that sucks because a lot of people can get rid of or can get away with crap that they wouldn't normally get away with because you don't have that, third estate or fourth
Because
estate.
not every town has a DJ Burns living in it.
That's correct though. Like for real. I don't know. I don't know what newspapers could have done. I don't know what they could have done to avoid that. The reason why I gravitated to 11 Warriors when I was in college was because it was interesting and like the stuff that they were putting out there was like fun to engage with. And I think maybe newspapers could have pivoted that, especially with their sports coverage. But like, I think there would have been as many people who would be pissed about a conversational kind of tone. I don't know. I mean, it's not like, King Gordon wasn't going to like jump out and be like, hey guys, top 10 sexiest Buckeye babes. He wasn't going to do like the Portnoy stuff, like it's not, that wouldn't have been his style. It's not his thing.
Yeah. That could have been problematic.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's how some of these sites got their business, by appealing to the lowest common denominator.
That's still how some sites get
it is.
Business.
And that sucks too. So like, I don't know. That's part of why I liked the Warriors. It was funny and it was fun, but it also wasn't like this lowbrow crap. Like it was actually guys putting an effort into what they were doing. And I just appreciated the hell out of that. Biggest thing that was for us is that, 11 Warriors broke the Urban Meyer news, that he had officially come to Ohio State.
Yeah.
And that wasn't us just spitting into the wind. Like I think a lot of people, particularly in, the traditional news media, thought that we just like guessed, right? That isn't true. That we had solid sourcing from inside the athletic department, because people on the site, specifically one person on the site, I guess I could just say Kyle Rowland, because it doesn't matter because Gene Smith is gone. Kyle Rowland had connections with the athletic department, and Gene Smith, he knew that was going down. And so through his sourcing, he was able to say, hey, let me get in on this. And
let me ask you that. Did he like traditionally the little, because I'm only a pretend journalist, not an actual.
Well, me too. I mean, I don't know,
right. Did traditionally, before you break news like that, you're supposed to verify with another source that you've got from another. Did you guys follow up with another source?
My guess is I don't know exactly what Roland. I don't know what Kyle, how he was sourcing it. My guess is the source was Gene Smith himself. That's pretty much.
But okay, so you don't know if he verified with another source before publishing this. So because if he did publish if it's Gene Smith, I mean,
my guess is it was Gene Smith.
Right.
That's what I think.
But if traditionally you're supposed to double up before you publish news like this.
Yeah.
I think that's a big problem with the clickbait. I compare the era of journalism we're in to people writing me first comments on YouTube. In terms of report first, verify later.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
And that's how we wind up with a bunch of stories that are either only half truths or not the truth at all because people didn't double up on their sourcing.
Right.
I can understand in that case where this would be a big enough break for the site and its credibility, and the fact that the source was already coming from the top of the food chain, that you might want to go at not necessarily follow that standard for the purpose of being the first one to get that story out before someone else does. That's why I'm curious, when he got that scoop, was the directive to confirm it with somebody else or just run with it before getting scooped?
I think, yeah, I mean, we didn't want to get scooped, and my guess is it came from Gene. I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure it did. Even if it didn't, though, I think the other thing is the implication was like, if we don't pull the trigger on this now, it's going to be out there in like a day. You know what I mean? So it's like, you gotta go. And of course there was smoke around Urban Meyer, for a month leading up to that. Nobody was just willing to actually say for certain because nobody really knew for certain. The funny thing was, I had this happened the summer not the summer, but during my second semester of senior year of high school. And I had one of the people in my friend group was a Florida fan, and he kind of made a sarcastic comment to me and another person that was paying attention to this whole site. He's like, there's people saying that Urban Meyer's going to go to Ohio State. Like, why would he do that? Like, what's going on?
me and the other guy kind of look at, we're like, no, that's a very realistic possibility.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
literally
right.
within like a week or two, I remember 11 Warriors breaking the news. And that was kind of my first. I knew a little bit about the site just because my dad has been on Ozone for like my entire life, so I knew he was more comfortable posting there than actually posting in the 11 Warriors forums, but I was just kind of aware of the Buckeye blogosphere because of that. But that was my first big exposure to them thinking like, oh, that was the first kind of moment for me where I realized like these sites are capable of breaking legitimate news as much as newspapers.
Well, and as a result, I mean, you had these newspapers and like the Dispatch and local news outlets like 10 TV having to cite 11 Warriors. But the really big part of that was that national outlets now had to cite 11 Warriors. So then you had things like ESPN saying, according to 11warriors.com. And like that, not only is that huge for our credibility, but it also pisses off a lot of people. Like they saw that and they're like, wait a minute, why are they getting the credit for breaking this? Like, how do we? But the thing is like, again, Kyle Rowland, like we asked our audience, we asked our commenters, the people who visited the site to raise money so that we could pay for a beat writer. Okay. That's how we originally able to do it. It wasn't through our ad revenue or our merchandising or any of that stuff. It was through money that we raised from people who supported the site. And we got a guy who was super professional, who did his job the right way, who had connections, and we broke legitimate news legitimately. And so I think everybody kind of eventually realized that it wasn't us just like putting stuff out there, like this was legit. These were serious people. And I'm not going to lie, it was very funny seeing these traditional outlets having to cite us as a legitimate source. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. I thought that was great. The website, of course, blew up after that. We went, I think, literally like 32 cents a month on AdSense, like Google AdSense, to where it is now. Now we don't need to ask our commenters. We can just pay the people who work for us. So that's kind of nice. And then it's really fortuitous because then, of course, Urban Meyer gets hired. A couple of years later, you win a national championship. That also, kind of raised the profile of the site. We had people writing on the site who got a lot of attention because that name was already there. And one of my favorite things from the 2014 Natty run, aside from it being insane, DJ Burns actually was interviewed on NPR in Oregon before the national championship game. And he was like, I mean, the whole thing, I'm sure
was he as sober as he was for his New York Times interview about Urban Meyer Gate?
I can't speak to that. I think you would have to ask him, but it was a great interview. It was extremely funny. He predicted, Ohio State by 1,000,000 points. But the funniest thing is they had him on again after the national championship game, just to rub. But he was super gracious in victory and all that. But it was awesome. So stuff like that, I was like, wow, this kicks ass. Like I love this. I know in the Sugar Bowl against Alabama, I drank an entire bottle of pink Moscato that we were saving for for New Year's, and I was it's disgusting. Well, it's bad, but like it's good in that particular situation. And I drank the entire. I was chugging it because I didn't think.
How could you not?
Yeah, I didn't think Ohio State would win, but I had to still write. Like we just talked about, I wrote like 5 articles that night. Yeah, so if you go back and
talking about big moments for the site, that's 85 yards through the heart.
Oh my God! And by the way, props to Jason. I tried to figure out who actually originated that phrase. It is Jason. Jason Priestess created that phrase at about 1:45 a.m. when we were trying to think of merchandising, and we were just spitballing. Like phrases and ideas, and he came up with it. Like, so it's funny because it's one of those things that like becomes viral where like everybody refers to that play as 85 yards to the heart of the South. Well, Jason Priestess invented that phrase. I will still great. Like, unfortunately didn't become a NFL Hall of Famer, but Carlos Hyde being called El Guapo, I'm very happy that I invented that nickname.
Really?
I did. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I did. That was 11 Warriors. I'm the first person who I came up with. I was trying to come up with like nicknames for all the running backs on the team, and I just chose El Guapo because they happened to be watching the Three Amigos at the time. So that's why, yeah. But then he was like, "Oh yeah, it's a cool name," and then he just kept using it. So I'm still waiting for the residuals on that. There's another thing I was trying to think with. I don't know. Anyway, I know. I was going to talk about how kind of the exposure we got. We got more media exposure as it went on. That was cool. We had the Time Warner / Spectrum show that went on for a while. That was like a studio show that was kick ass. We had the radio show for a very long time, 97.1. I actually filled in for that a few times. That was cool. Our first taste of that was during a spring game, I think in 2013 or 2012, something like that. And we had a post-spring game banger that we were having at a bar downtown. Everybody else was just 3 sheets to the wind, like wasted. And 10 TV called us and was like, "Hey, can we get somebody on the radio or on the TV to do like a spot?" Because they do this like, post-game show, whatever. And normally I would be like the last person, but because I was the most sober of everyone, I toddled my way up High Street into the Donatos where they're going to film. And Bo Bishop was hosting, and there were all these other guys there. Prentice from Ozone was there. Jeff Sabota was there. There were a few other dudes. It was great. It was like, oh, wow, I feel like a professional guy. And so I'm getting ready to be on TV. They're like putting makeup on me and stuff. And the power goes out. They blew a fuse, and they couldn't shoot it. It was supposed to be a remote shot.
We can't let this guy on television.
I know. Yeah. They pulled the plug. They're like, hell no. Bo almost like lost his mind. He was about to kill somebody. But yeah, I avoided being on TV, luckily. But I love that kind of stuff. I mean, like we did our Dubgate, the 11 Dubgate used to be E2 Brutus. JT Barrett's dad spilled some barbecue on me. That was fun. We had the Woody statue that we made in Newcomers Town, and we had a big event. Everybody showed up, Archie Griffin was there. A bunch of old Woody's players were there. That was a lot of fun. Gold Pants Social, we raised money for Gold Pants for the team. Just fun stuff. Like I just, those are all things that like I remember and that I just really, really enjoyed. Last thing I want to say, and I'm going to ask you actually a question here, George. Some of the things that I've written, it's very interesting to see kind of the reaction that it's gotten in public. Like when I did Threat Level Michigan, when I started Threat Level Michigan, I expected some people to like glom onto it because it's about Michigan and I'm making fun of Michigan. I'm like, that's a slam dunk, right? That's easy. But I would write stuff and like it would get reposted on Reddit and stuff. And the attention that it got always surprised me that people would take it as seriously as they did, because I did not ever intend it to be a super serious analysis of Michigan. It's just me making fart jokes for 500 words. But some people took it like, oh man, I got to read this. And I'm like, you don't really, it's really not me trying here. It's just me making stupid jokes and Photoshops. Have you written stuff that's like blown up or things that you didn't expect where you're like, I did not expect this reaction, I guess?
Not yet.
Okay.
That'd be
well,
cool.
You'll have the opportunity. Day. You'll have the opportunity.
Yeah, we'll see. No, I mean, and I only say that in the sense that pretty much everything that I've like, when I write something and I know that it's good, I know that it's going to perform well, frankly.
Right.
At
like
least
you did the long form thing earlier this year. That was fantastic. And
I'm grateful. Thank you. It did all right. I mean, it didn't. I've had the most like biggest thing that I've written that wasn't like a news related piece was me going a little out of bounds on the Weekender back in February of 2022 and calling out Harbaugh for what I called his second honeymoon with Michigan. Now that didn't necessarily age too great because Michigan ended up winning a national championship.
Right.
However, we didn't know who Connor Stalions was at the time.
Well,
yet, and that wasn't on anybody's radar. So it might end up from aging like milk to aging like fine wine, depending on what happens in the next couple of months. But that's still like, that was the most read post on the site for that month. I mean, and I had within my first year here, I had more than a few of those that I had like gotten the weekender to do. I would say like, but I'll give you even another example. We retired this week in Twitter, but I'm pretty sure I'm the only writer in the history of the site that has ever gotten a This Week in Twitter post to be one of the top 10 articles read on the site for the month. And it was when that I don't know, it was something about Mike Hall, and it was something about haters and losers or something. I can't remember what it was. I might have to look it up just to confirm, so people don't think I'm making this up, and don't
no, but those things blow up sometimes. Like people, I would do the social reacts after the game, and that was always like the most viewed thing after each game. I'm like, why? I don't know. I don't get it, but that's why.
But no, I mean, but even then, I remember like it was a little bit of a different take on how the series usually is, just in terms of like reposting, like, I guess, tweets from players and stuff. Right. And I remember pitching that to Dan because I was like, look, this plays right into what we want to do with this article. But I think that this, I just want to confirm with you before I go with this angle that this is going to work, or that you're okay with this as editor. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. But I knew it was going to perform well because it was capitalizing on current news. But still within the parameters of how we were doing This Week in Twitter. So I, pretty much always before I publish something, like if I know it has legs, I know let me put it like this. I've had more ideas that I think are going to do well that don't do well than I've had stuff that I've just published and is like gone more crazy than I.
But that's okay. I mean, but you know what? And I'll talk about this in a little bit. I do think that people need to,
you got to be afraid to fail.
Yeah, and they've got to get like readers and people who consume this. I think you have to give grace to writers who are willing to try new stuff, because even if it doesn't work, like it's worth the attempt. If everything was just the same bland stuff, it's not worth reading. It's not worth engaging with. Like, you got to give people a chance to do something new, something different, because otherwise you're not going to get threat level. You're not going to get some of the more interesting things. So. But anyway, like I said, it's been a fun as hell 15 years. There's been a ton that I've been able to do that I haven't even been able to I haven't even mentioned half the stuff. But I have a lot of great memories, and I really just want to thank everybody that I've been able to work with. There'll be more thanking in a second, but we do have to do Ask Us Anything. That is also very important. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, Dubcast is sponsored by Dry Goods Store, 11warriors.com. Shirts, hats, stickers, all in the Dry Goods, 11warriors.com. Buy shirts, buy stuff, buy hats. All right, anyway. Dubcast at 11warriors.com.
Oh, real quick. I remember what it was. So this was after Ohio State made the college football playoff in 2022. And if you'll recall at the time, that was right after they lost to Michigan. This is when only 4 teams could get in. And so it was kind of, they needed a very specific set of circumstances to happen during championship weekend in order for them to get in. And they got in. But then all these people on Twitter started throwing a fit because they got in over, I think it was Alabama, and or maybe it was I think it was USC that was supposed to get in or something. And people were like Stuart Mandel, who's like head of the Athletic, was like, he was saying, oh, it would have been better for USC if they started off 11-0, lost at home by 23, and this was after they got blown out at home by Michigan.
Right.
And then they not advanced their conference championship game. Like Ohio State didn't play during championship week. All these Danny Cannell, Rich Eisen, of course. And then there were not only were there all these pundits that were shaming Ohio State, but then you had all these players like Teron Vincent and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jackson Smith and Jigba that were posting on Twitter about people being upset. And so I was just like, this plays right into what I want to do with this. So, Dan, is it cool if I go with this angle as opposed to just the usual, like, oh, Aaron Kraft got his doctorate from Ohio State this week or something? Which does fine in its own right, but it's this plays right into what we want to do. He's like, yeah, go for it. So I was like, okay, I'm a roll with this, and I know it'll do great. And it's the only This Week in Twitter that was ever a top 10 for the site for a month.
Nice.
Ever. I was very proud of that. But
well
yeah, you got to be afraid to fail sometimes, you know. I hope the stuff that I write that's more free form as opposed to news oriented is as successful one day as yours has been.
We'll see.
Johnny.
I'll talk about that later, actually. All right, so let's do Ask Us Anything. First one here from Kevin, who says, do you think that writers in the Tour de France still blood dope? If you haven't been following Tour de France, you should, because it's hilarious. And by the way, the answer to your question, Kevin, yes, 100% yes. I think they all do. I think they're all on drugs, and I think it's hilarious, and I think it's awesome. Pojakar, the guy that we've talked about a little bit, if you've been following Ask Us Anything, he's basically the guy who's like unbeatable. He just posted a mountain stage where like he looked fresh as a daisy at the end of it. I mean, he went through like 100+ miles through the mountains and was like, all right, let's do another 100 miles. And destroyed everybody, right? So like he's clearly doping. In my opinion, I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know these guys, but in my opinion, this guy's got to be doping. But I also think everybody else.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Are they allowed to get IVs in between rides?
So,
because the UFC doesn't allow you to do that after a weight cut.
They're really closely monitored during the actual event. I don't know that they can get IVs. I do know that they have people at their hip like throughout the entire thing. However, there's also things that they can do that like can flush out of their system almost immediately. So I think a lot of these guys, again, this is my opinion. I don't have any special insider information of the Tour de France, but I do think that leading up to it, they do a ton of doping and then they taper off beforehand. And then they just kind of like,
this cycling. There are a lot of athletes do that.
Yeah.
They're the UFC's bread and butter.
Of course. They're experts at cycling. It's the Tour de France. Anyway. Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, not only do I think they're doping, but I also think that, they all are, which is why I enjoy it. Because it'd be one thing if I thought one guy was getting some kind of advantage. Like, that's the thing about Lance Armstrong. Yeah, the guy was cheating. You know who else is cheating in the Tour de France? Everyone else. So, like, as much as people were upset about, I can't believe he betrayed our trust. It's like, okay, but also riders 2 through 10 were also all doing it. So, like, maybe not cut him some slack because he lied a lot, but like, like maybe not be super surprised by it, I guess, next time. That's what I would say.
The sport of baseball could learn a thing or two, legalize steroids.
That's right. Just put
Let's go back to the fall era or whatever.
Kevin also had a question. He said, wow, that's crazy. So anyway, Kevin said that he used to work for the Joint Warfare Analysis Center, and when he left, his boss said that he was like him leaving was like Derek Jeter leaving the Yankees, which is like, dang, you must have been kicking ass at the JWAC. But and then he says, I'm leaving is like that. I don't think that's a little too much. What would become a threat level? We may have something similar to that on the site. I will not be continuing it. Even at, like, again, I'm kind of alluding to it. I'm going to continue writing. I'm going to have kind of my own thing. I will not be doing like a threat level thing on my own thing. All right. I'm not going to go out there and be like, take that 11 more. Like, I'm not going to do that. I may write, I'm going to write about college football, and I may have like regular topics and things like that, like, features, but probably not threat level. So will maybe something similar to that, but not in that same vein. And then as far as other like media stuff, you just got to stay tuned. You got to see what 11 Warriors is going to do with the video thing. There's a lot going on with that. Next one here. This is from Paul Brown, who says, comments on surviving Ohio State documentary. Best of luck to Johnny in future endeavors. Can I have the National Park poster since I can't see it anymore? It's there. It's still in this room. I just haven't put it up yet because I'm lazy. So no, you can't have it. Did you watch the Surviving Ohio State documentary, George?
I didn't, honestly. Dude. That's not me being an ostrich and sticking my head in the sand. It's, as I've talked about on here before, I watch so many sports nowadays because I have a whole other gig with the UFC that I don't watch like fiction or non. I shouldn't call it, obviously it's not fiction, but I'm just saying any like fiction or non-fictional media, even docu-series or anything like that, movies, TV shows, I really, I watched Better Call Saul last year, and that was only because I had started watching it in 2015 or something when I was in college, and I was like, okay, I don't want, this is too slow for me. I'm just going to wait for the show to finish and then watch it. And then it took like 8 years to finally wrap up or whatever. So I very rare, I think, it's kind of, the last documentary I watched was the Stallions thing on Netflix. So I mean, should I watch Surviving It? Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be better for me to be informed given the space that I occupy, but no, I haven't seen it.
It's wild. And I don't mean that in like, wow, this is fun. I mean, it's pretty brutal. There's a lot that they talk about. I don't think it's necessarily uncovering anything new, but it does kind of underline a few things. I mean, just the fact that like negligence, right? Like the ability of people to not have a system in place to allow for people to report, those kinds of horrible things. The kind of peer pressure that exists to make it harder for people to come out. I think this is one of those things that people really should watch just from an institutional level alone, just because it really does show how many people can fail. When something serious like that is happening, right? Yeah. Like when people aren't, beholden or understanding of how accountability is supposed to function in an organization, then it doesn't happen, right? Accountability doesn't happen. If there isn't a clear process for stuff like that, it just doesn't happen. And when there's no one who's really like putting their foot down and saying this needs to be talked about, it doesn't. And so I think that's a big takeaway from it. All the other stuff aside, which is horrible. Like, I mean, that's, but it's not, I guess my point is people shouldn't watch it and just like gawk at the bad stuff that's happening. They should watch it and go, this is what can happen when there's failures within an institution. And I think that's something that I really take away from it. People in charge, people who should have been doing the right thing did not do the right thing. In part because I don't think they had any incentive to, which sucks because A, that I think makes them bad people, and B, I think it's pretty damning of the institution overall. So I know a lot of people, the people who, perpetrated this a lot, and what was going on at Ohio State, they're not there anymore. A lot of them are dead, but like, I don't think that absolves, Ohio State of all responsibility. So I don't know. It's a tough thing to watch, but I think it's an important thing to watch. So yeah. All right. Next question here. This is actually, we got a few more after this. I find this this is really good. This is one of the best questions.
People had to get their parting shots in it.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it was last call.
Yeah. Hi, Johnny and Georgie. Favorite memory of...
Next question. Nobody calls me that.
Well, all right. He says favorite memory. This is from Carter, by the way. Favorite memory of Johnny's Dubcast tenure was a response to an Ask Me Anything question where the listener asked Andy and Johnny about their shaving techniques. I was driving to vacation in South Carolina with my family while listening, and my wife happened to wake up during their response. She hears Andy's routine, and then Johnny describes his, which at the time, and probably still is, dry shaving with just his razor.
Oh my God.
So I don't always do that. Sometimes I revert and I just do like a little like buzz thing where I just kind of like get my peach fuzz down to an acceptable up. But yes, when I shave, when I want it all gone, I just dry shave. I don't even put water on it.
How do you not scrape or irritate your skin?
I don't know. It works for me. It does.
My skin would not tolerate that. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't get nicks. It doesn't make acne.
That's insane.
Yeah. So
no, my razor burn would be unbearable.
Oh, it doesn't feel good. I'm not gonna
like
lie.
that.
Her response was, "Are you listening to someone's kid talk about shaving for the first time? And why is his dad referring to Andy allow that?" This is still Carter. I had to explain that no, this was a serious OSU sports.
No, this is an Ohio State sports show.
And this is just an Ask Me Anything that they do. And in fact, they are not father and son. From that point on, anytime I mention the Dubcast, she responds with, "Has that one guy figured out shaving yet?"
Except the shaving show.
No, I haven't. Johnny, it has been a great ride. I hope you have continued success in your future endeavors. I'm sorry, I'm never changing. Don't try to change me, baby. I am who I am.
I know I got you Elden Ring for your 500th show. I thought
Yeah.
about getting you a parting gift for this one. I think I'm going to send you some shaving cream.
What's the Dollar Shave Club?
Yeah.
I'll have to sign me up for
Well,
that.
but they're razors. I don't know if they have actual cream or whatever, but yeah, you could
just
clearly use some help.
I'm going to show up on another Dubcast like in like 4 or 5 months, and I'll just have like those like pieces of toilet paper stuck all over my face.
No, you're going to
come back, guys.
You're going to come back the first time you've actually used product with, taking a razor to your face. You're going to be like, I didn't know life could be this wonderful.
No,
I've just been living. I've been living with the pain my entire.
No, I need those experiences to remind myself that the world is a harsh, cruel place, and I can't get complacent. That's why I do. Like that's a joke. That's a joke, but like that's actually
it's great. I've been talking to you almost every week for 2 years, and not only did I find out tonight that you invented the Guapo nickname for Carlos Hyde, but that you also are a dry guy when it comes to shaving.
Yeah. You know what, Andy? When I said that, Andy, I think maybe it wasn't Andy. Maybe it was somebody who wrote in the next week. But he said that he was in basic or something, and as a punishment, his sergeant made somebody do that. Like that was a basic.
That is
like a
cool
basic
and
training
unusual punishment.
That was a basic training punishment, and I do it like every day. All right, this is from Tim. Hey guys, worst announcement ever last week. Johnny, thanks for being the best OSU podcaster around. That's a lie, but I appreciate you saying that. It won't be the same without you. Will the Dubcast no ball? Yes, as long as George is here, still here, the Dubcast will always no ball.
Look, we both know ball, but if things go the way that I want to, the Dubcast may know more ball than ever before in short order.
You will be imbued with a power of ball so strong.
That's right.
That's true though. You're not blowing smoke.
Well, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. That would be.
If I had my way, the show is going to live on, but it to be determined. Yeah. Unfortunately, if you're only here for Johnny and you want to see me replaced, to my knowledge, I'm not going anywhere.
Too bad, suckers.
Yet, so, yeah.
The question Tim actually has is, what's the most useful thing that you own that costs less than $100? I have. It was actually gifted to me. It's just, I'm sure I've got like other things I use more often, but the one that I found most useful, it appeared in a bunch of infomercials back in the day, where it was like it's a attachment for like a screwdriver or for a power drill or whatever. And like if you have a stripped bolt or something like that, it like adjusts to whatever the size is, and then you can just like turn it no matter. You don't need to like size out anything. And I've used that so many freaking times, and I love it. It works perfectly. It's awesome. It's like my favorite thing.
About 6 years ago, I think it was for Christmas, one of my aunts got me and my brother oven gloves.
Oh, the glove?
Like an oven mitt, but it's
dude,
like
I love the glove.
I think the concept of an oven mitt is so stupid. Why would you not just get something like? Why would it not just be a glove? Like we have the material to do it. Making it a mitten just makes it more difficult to pick it. And obviously, you're handling a tray with hot, sensitive food on it. You want to have as firm a grip on it as possible.
Yeah,
I make vegetables every single day in my oven, and I have used this thing every Monday to Friday, every day pretty much for the last like 6 years. So that's my answer easily. It's one of the best gifts I've ever gotten, and I still use it very regularly.
My mom got an oven
Shout
glove.
out Tawny D if you're listening.
There you go. My mom got an oven glove like 35 years ago. I'm pretty sure she still uses the exact same one. It's sick. No, I love that. Okay, last one from our very, very, very good friend Alvin. And
it had to be Alvin.
It had to be Alvin. Come on, man.
The last Ask Us Anything ever.
MVP. Really, if we're talking about it, it's our third co-host. He rules. Alvin, I've only met you once, I think. But you honestly, when there hasn't been content, you've been there. When there has been no one else listening, you've been there. When there's somebody who needs to ask like an interesting question to keep the conversation, you've been there, dude. Like you are a true bro. And honestly, like I know I'm kind of like blowing smoke a little bit, but I'm not really, because in all seriousness, the contributions you made to the Dubcast are unbelievable. And when nobody was listening to this, and I'm not saying this is some big fancy pants, podcast right now, but like you were there from the jump, and you're awesome, dude. So I seriously, thank you so much for your questions over the years. All right, so this is from Alvin. It says, thank you, Johnny, for your contributions to the 11 Warriors community, Dubcasters, and Buckeye Nation. I remember reading Ramsey DJs and your content during my college days, and when I graduated from OSU in 2010, I needed to stay connected to Buckeye sports and football, and your writing / the Dubcast filled that gap. I've always appreciated your witty writing on the site and your authenticity as the host of the Dubcast. My wife and now kids recognize your voice. That's unfortunate, as especially as someone who I'm making an aside here. This is not part of his email. Remember, I was described lovingly as having a voice like a surfer dude on bath salts, so I just want to like emphasize that. Anyway, as I have now way too many times listened to the Dubcast on some of our long road trips, her reactions when she hears your voice during the offseason is priceless. Are you serious? Another Ohio State podcast? Didn't the season end already like 2 months ago? I'm sorry, Mrs. Alvin.
Content never sleeps.
It never sleeps. Here are my questions. What was your favorite and least favorite Dubcast episodes you've hosted, and why? Great question. I have a definitive answer for both. Sometimes it'd be like, well, it's been so many. I don't know. That's not true. I have answers. Couple things. Honorable mentions, I think I've told this story many times. I accidentally deleted, or I didn't delete, I just didn't press record when we interviewed Terry McLaurin. And then I had to ashamedly send him a text and be like, hey, Terry, can we record another one? And he's like, hell yeah. And we did it. And he's great. He's like the nicest human being on the planet. That ruled. Few other things. I mean, any post national championship Dubcast, I know in particular, like the one after this year was hilarious and fun. Like, I mean, we were just like high on life. But the 2014 one, we were unhinged, and it was like, I mean, I didn't know what to do with my hands. It was just an hour of gibberish. It was great. So that was a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun interviews over the years too. Like, I mean, Dan Wilkinson was a really great interview. We've had Maurice Claret on a number of times. Those were all cool episodes. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I mean, Maurice Claret, I actually had, this is another 11 Warriors story I don't think I've told. We had dinner with him. Ramsey and him are like tight, like they know each other, and they were all in the area. So like me, Ramsey, and him just went out to City Barbecue and just hung out, and it was great. It was a great time. I mean, he is a fascinating dude to talk to. He's really intelligent. He's a cool guy. But anyway, least favorite. I mentioned Jim Jackson earlier. This is when the Dubcast first started. I think it was like 2011. Like it had to have been, we'd only been like going around for like a couple months at the time. And I was able to get him on the horn. And I think he was like one of our first guests. And it was the most awkward 11 minutes of my entire life. He clearly did not want to talk to me, had no idea who I was. His agent had set it up, I guess, probably without talking to him first. And it was just awful. Every single second of it. And again, it's not his fault. I mean, I don't think he really knew what the hell was going on or who I was or what 11 Warriors was. This is, again, way before we blew up. And he was like, okay. And he gave one-word answers to every question I had. And it lasted 11 minutes, and I was in hell the entire time. And I'm glad that recording doesn't
Did you
exist.
Still publish it?
Oh, hell yeah, I did. Of course I did.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm not going to do that.
Still in the archives?
No, it's not. It's not on the internet. You can't find it. Don't look for it. It's gone. I really hope that's the case. It was so bad. And again, not his fault. Nothing does not reflect poorly on him. He was fine, but like I was miserable. I was just sweating the entire time. Best one we done, it's got to be Richard Lewis. When Richard Lewis was on the show, here's the thing. Bo and I were doing the show. We expected the interview to last for, 30 minutes, 45 minutes if we were lucky. That dude talked for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We only were able to use an hour of it because we didn't want the show to be 2 hours long, but we published the full 2 hours of the interview later because we couldn't not. And he was just, he he was just telling story after story after story. Him and Larry David, him and Hollywood, him and Mel Brooks. And I was just like, holy crap. And he was the nicest human ever. Like, he was super chill. He answered every question. He was just friendly. And I don't know, man. It was cool. I mean, he was a bona fide Hollywood dude, a star, and never, like, in any of his responses, big timed any of us. He didn't, like, he treated like we were his best. I mean, he was just awesome, and it was great. And I was dying laughing the entire time. So, yeah, that was great. That was just a cool experience. And, I enjoyed the hell out of it. So that was awesome. Anyway,
I don't have a least favorite, but my favorite, definitely, because I think it's a reflection of our dynamic. I mean, no, I think I've probably alluded to it before, but there will be times where and I think it speaks to, I don't want to gloat about us having chemistry or whatever.
I think we have good chemistry. I think good back and forth. Good
It's
rapport.
usually something you want to hear other people say as opposed to declaring that you got chemistry with somebody.
If you're right, you're right.
But I mean, it's crazy that there's another show that I listen to every week for the UFC. That's just the names of the two hosts. It's called like the Shillen and Duffy Show, and it's hosted by this outlet called ShareDog, and they've been doing it for the last 6 years. And the two of them have never actually met each other. And they make jokes about it all the time that they're probably going to finally meet this year. And it's going to be kind of funny for them because they literally talk to each other for 3 hours every week for the last 6 years about this sport. And they've never actually met each other in person. Johnny and I have met each other in person twice. And we've been talking to each other for like an hour every week for over the last 2 years.
Oh, more than an hour, brother. We ramble. I mean, before we record,
there have been a couple of times where we've literally talked for like 2 hours before actually hitting record on something. And I don't think we've ever actually gotten into like a heated argument once or anything. It's just all been banter and report. We've had debates, we've had disagreements, but there's never been any animosity or upset with each other or anything. Absolutely, it's just been, our rapport has been good. And I think that, the fact that I am able to talk to somebody like in that capacity speaks to, just how good of a dynamic we had. And that leads me into what my favorite episode was, because a little over a year ago, we had just started doing the show on video. And, you had sent me the rundown, and it was, bona fide off-season content episode. It's like, we're really going to be drawing water out of a stone this week. What are we going to talk about?
Right.
And I made a point of telling you, did you watch Ohio State's commencement address?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
And you had not actually watched it. I said, okay, listen, I need you to watch this, because not only is it unbelievable, but nobody is talking about this yet. And granted, we were not the first people that were on the show. I give so much credit to the two girls that were at the Lantern that actually called out this disaster a week before, that were like, this is going to be awful, and nobody is doing anything to
I changed my vote. This is the best episode of the Dubcast. I am incorrect. This is actually, Richard Lewis was great. Nothing to take away, but I agree. This is my favorite. Yeah.
Not only was the roast of Chris Pan and that commencement speech, it just a hoot for me to talk about.
It was more fun in the lead up before we recorded anything. I was crying laughing before we hit record. It was so
unbelievable. Good. But we were the only people that were we were some of the first people that were actually talking about it after the fact. And it's reflected in the fact that is easily the most viewed episode of the Dubcast on YouTube.
Because we got the crypto bros mad, and so they all flocked.
that might have had something to do with it too. But the fact that that one got nearly 10,000 views, I think, on YouTube alone is reflective of the fact that we, before it took longer than I would have anticipated for other national outlets to pick up the story in terms of this was really, really bad. But there were enough people that were upset about it, tied to Ohio State's campus and graduation, that we both were kind of dumbfounded. This was so transparently awful that it's crazy that nobody else has picked up on it yet. And eventually they did, but we were some of the first people that were out in front of it.
That was really great.
And I was very grateful that you picked up on the initiative that I tried to give to you pre-show. And I was like, dude, you gotta trust me on this. This is gold, and somehow nobody else has picked up on it.
That was so funny. That was great. I mean,
easily my favorite show that we did together.
And before we started recording, we went through it. Like, we literally were going through. We watched the entire thing and wrote notes on it the entire time. It was. Oh yeah. Like, I've never put that much effort into anything in my life as the roasting Chris Pan, and I mean, it was so good. That was. If you can go back and watch that episode and you haven't already, you need to do that. That was really fun. I enjoyed that quite a bit. So. Good choice out of you. I had forgotten about that somehow, and that was unbelievable. Another eureka moment was when the Connor Stallions thing broke, and people were talking about, oh, this guy might be like cheating, and I was like, I bet we got a picture of this dude. And I went into our picture archives, and honest to God, I think, I can't confirm it, but I think I'm the first person to have noticed that Connor Stallions was on the sidelines of Michigan football, because I was like, he's got to be on the sidelines. And I found him in one of our archived photos that we had, because we send, photographers. Garrett goes to the games, he takes pictures, and I found his ass, and I was like, holy crap, let's go. And we published it, and I used one of the photos for, threat level, and like just that moment of realization, that eureka moment. I love it so much. That was, oh my God, that was so much fun. With Chris Pan.
I do think you were one of the people that when I posted that picture of him in disguise at Central Michigan, that you were like, there's no way that could be him. That's too, this story is too ridiculous. It can't be.
I don't think I wanted to believe it. I think I was like, hell no. Like, I was like, that would be too stupid. And then of course, it ended up being exactly that stupid.
We're all like, oh my God, no, that's definitely.
Yeah, I didn't want to believe it. All right, so that's Ask Us Anything. Thank you guys for sending those in, as always.
Oh my goodness. At the buzzer, stealing Alvin's thunder as the last Ask Us Anything ever.
Is it Chaz? Is it Chaz with two Z's?
It is Chaz.
Oh, okay.
Chaz is a little. Chaz looks a little irritated. Right. Says, farewell, beloved Dubcast. I must ask before Johnny leaves us. Uh-huh. I was going to ask what his favorite moment in Dubcast history is, but apparently another commenter stole that from under me. So let me change my question to Johnny. What is your favorite article that you've written during your time at 11 Warriors?
That's hard. I've written a lot, and in all honesty, I tried to like do the math. I've written probably over 1,000 articles for 11 Warriors. That sounds about right. Over 15 years, I wrote at least at bare minimum 1 article a week, usually 2, sometimes 3 or 4, probably around 1,000 articles. When I was applying for a job, 4 or 5 years ago, I put together kind of a portfolio, and I included like some of my writing stuff, because I was like, maybe I want to get some kind of like writing type job. And I tried to find some things that were like representative of the writing that I could do. I wrote an article about Jesse Owens several years ago that I don't think is perfect. It's not like, there's some syntax things that I don't really like in it. I could have edited paragraphs differently, but I was able to convey exactly what I wanted to convey, right? Like, it wasn't perfect, but it was something that I was really proud of. And because I made my point the way I wanted to make it. And that was always been my goal as a writer, is like, I have a point, I want to convey it in a way that's interesting, but also clear, that people understand what I'm trying to get at. So that one I was really proud of. I've also done really goofy stuff. Like, I made up a contract for Jim Bowman where like I pretended he was a walrus, and like the entire contract, like I made a fake one, right? And I actually had to ask our lawyer on retainer, like, is this legally distinct enough so I won't get in trouble? But like, he was like, yeah, idiot. Like, you're saying he's a walrus. I don't think they can sue you over that. And I'm like, okay, just want to make sure. Anyway, but I made up a
slander.
fake contract. Yeah. Right. I was like, is this libel? But no, obviously. Like, I said that he was an actual literal, sea creature. I was pretty proud of that because it looked like an actual document. Like, I made it look real, like somebody had photocopied it. Honestly, I was really proud, and it's kind of annoying that it took place in the confines of threat level, because I never really wanted threat level to be as important, quote unquote, as it became. But like that first week about Connor Stallions, where I've got like the Notice Me Senpai thing on, and I like really just go all in on roasting.
That got you in the documentary.
Yeah, that's right, it did.
I'd say that's the best thumbnail you've ever done.
That's one of my better thumbnails.
Other than when you pulled that image out of Sharon Moore out of USA Today, where he's like,
he's like vibrating in space.
And you didn't even put an effect on it. That was just up on. It's like, I can't believe that they published that for people to purchase. It's unbelievable. That's an unbelievable. You're very good at combing through the archives of digital photos and finding little nuggets like that. See, at least as they apply to Michigan.
Putting that history degree to work. But that article, the way I wrote it, I thought came together really well, because the second half of it was just basically me like calling out Michigan fans and bloggers and writers for being hypocrites, right? Where they had complained about Ohio State pushing the boundaries. And then now they're like, oh, but it's cool when we do it. But one of the things that I struggle with as a writer is ending articles. And that one, I think, had a mic drop that I was really happy with. So like, it was basically saying, like, the point that I was making is that Michigan has, I think the quote was that they have finally become what they wanted to be all along, which is Ohio State. And so like, I was like, yes, like,
boom,
twist the knife.
I have an actual microphone here, but I'm not going to drop it.
Right. If you drop it, the Dubcast is just going to stop recording.
Exactly.
But I was really proud of that one. I thought that one turned out really well. But there's just stuff. Whenever it's creative, whenever it's weird, I've always been proud of that kind of thing. So great question. Thank you, Chaz. I appreciate it. All right, so we've gone a little bit over time, but who the hell cares? I've got a few more things that I want to say before we sign off. First of all, I've had 6 Dubcast co-hosts. I think it's 6. I'm pretty sure. And I just want to shout out all of them.
I refer to myself as the 7th, but only because you were the first.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's so. Right. Well, there you go. The 7th Beatle, as you were.
The second George of the 7 Beatles.
There you go. The cool George. So here's the deal. So I just want to talk about these guys who I have spent the last 14-ish years, talking to. First was Luke Zimmerman. Luke was on 11 Warriors for a long time. Incredibly funny dude. Great writer. Got a death threat once for comparing Ohio State football to the TV show Lost. So that's fun. Endlessly creative. He is the guy, like, I approached him. I was like, hey man. And by approached, I mean, I like sent him a DM and said, hey man, we should like do a podcast for 11 Warriors. He was instantly all about it. He, gave it its voice. He's just an awesome dude and really fun to work with. Sarah Hardy, who came along next, also, I think, extremely funny. One of the more creative people that's ever been on 11 Warriors. She wrote in a way nobody has ever written like her before or since. She was like super, like, if you know David Foster Wallace, who did a lot of footnotes and things like that, her writing style was very similar. Really dense, intelligent. She was super fun to talk to. We got to do a couple of like live shows at 11 Warriors, like tailgates and stuff. I had a great time with talking with her. Michael Citro, great dude, down for any idea at any time. Super good with like interviews, getting people to come on. We actually interviewed Joe Burrow as a recruit, which was hilarious. That was a lot of fun. Friendly guy, fun as hell to talk to. Great times with Mike. He's a good dude. Bo Bishop, I still think it's insane that Bo Bishop was one of the co-hosts of this show. The dude has I think he has Emmy awards and stuff.
And I thought he got those after he left the show.
I think he had them before.
He said he had them before he came on, which is impressive.
A true pros pro. I learned a ton from him. Just in terms of like planning and cadence, everything. He's just like A plus 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 plus. His skill is unbelievable. I mean, when you listen to him on the radio, the guy he knows how to be a broadcaster. He includes everybody in the conversation. That was all. I mean, I'm an idiot, right? Like I don't know jack about broadcasting or a lot of the stuff that he does. I mean, he's got a whole career's worth of information to draw from. But he never made you felt like you were dumb. He always includes you in the conversation. And I always valued that because I am dumb sometimes. I like it when people don't make you feel that way. And of course, Andy Vance, fellow SOB, Southern Ohio boy, probably the nicest guy you will ever meet in your entire life. The sweetest, nicest guy ever. I mean, and by the way, you can ask anybody on Eleven Warriors who knows this guy. I mean, holy crap. Like just a plus individual, and also a really talented broadcaster, radio guy, TV guy. He does stuff with poultry now. He grew up on a cattle farm. Like this guy is a true Renaissance man, man about town. The amount of like the food that he makes. Like he's just a really interesting cat. Wrestling expert.
A lot of people still miss his wrestling coverage, and that's still a hole that hasn't been filled at the site, frankly.
Yeah,
so he was a big impact.
He's incredibly just good at a lot of things, and I had a lot of fun talking with him. But yeah, it's cool that we have that kind of Southern Ohio, Southwestern Ohio.
He was very gracious. He was very helpful and gracious in terms of like handing off I don't want to call it the reins, but transitioning me into his role on this show when first approached about it. And I mean, I was honestly very worried about like filling the shoes of that guy, given how impressive he was as he was preparing to come on. I was kind of surprised, honestly, when you asked me to come on and replace him.
And I do want to talk about you. I mean, smart, funny, interesting, all that stuff. The biggest thing is like you have unique perspectives on stuff all the time. And like the Chris Pan thing is a perfect example of that. I wouldn't have thought, like I would have maybe brushed it off. I wouldn't have gotten as deep into it, but you kind of like push for that. And like every week it felt like there was some perspective, there was some angle that I hadn't considered. And like, you have to have that in a co-host, right? Because when you have a show where the two people are just like saying, like repeating the same thing back to each other, it's not interesting.
No,
but you're not that. You always have a unique, interesting take on something. And I just value the hell out of that. That has been so much fun. That's why it's been so much fun to talk to you the past couple of years. I love it. I love that bouncing back and forth where you have different like takes on stuff. It's just so cool.
Well, and that's very kind of you, Johnny. I appreciate you saying that.
You've been kicking ass, dude. Like I love it. It's been great. It's been absolutely great.
I mean, I owe you a lot. Like on two different fronts. The first time I tried podcasting was when I was writing for Bloggable, and I noticed that this is an SB Nation platform that doesn't have a podcast. I don't know why we don't have it. We should do that. The editor wasn't willing to make it the official podcast of the site, so I just kind of ended up. There were 3 other people that were writing that were interested in doing it, so it was like, okay, let's see if we can make this dynamic work, and we'll see where it goes. I had no experience doing audio production outside of like one high school project like 7 years earlier. So I was using Audacity to try to produce it. The show lasted 3 episodes because I couldn't figure out how to
R.I.P. Audacity.
I couldn't figure out how to make the left and right audio tracks line up in the earphone. It sounded terrible. And I literally remember being so embarrassed and saying to these guys that had invested their time in doing this show that I said, sorry guys, I guess I thought I would be better at this or whatever in terms of managing the audio production, but it's just not going to work if I, can't figure this out. And it only lasted 3 episodes. And I thought, okay, we talked earlier about not being afraid to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You got to just be willing to try stuff and see where it goes. I said, okay, I'm a writer. I am not going to be somebody that is talking or on camera or anything with this. And I'll live with that. It is what it is. Nobody wants to look at me anyway. That was back when I was like 75 pounds heavier. I was like, I'm a writer and people respect my voice in that format. And that's what I'll try to lean into. Then I was at Land Grant, which I don't know if I don't think Luke Zimmerman is still there, but I know Citro is.
He's moved on, yeah.
But they kind of, I wasn't necessarily willing to do it, but they asked me to do it, and I agreed to because I wanted to make a good impression, and so I got kind of forced into doing that. And Gene Ross was a great co-host. I didn't really enjoy doing the one other show I did with one other guy who shall remain nameless. But that being said, I mean, you probably know who I'm talking about already if you've heard me talk about it before on the show. But I was super excited when I got to 11 Warriors just to write. And that was all that I planned on doing. I never thought I did the podcasting as a favor, talking about Ohio State. I didn't think I was going to pivot into doing video or audio content again. I really didn't think I had a future in that. So when you asked me to replace Andy, I mean, it kind of came out of left field, but it was a big vindication for me, not only in terms of what I just mentioned relative to audio and video content, but I mean, I've been here over 4 years now. I got here in May of 2021, and I was only about a year into being here when you asked me to take over for Andy.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I alluded to that Harbaugh thing I shoehorned into the Weekender. That was in February. So that was about, well, actually, you asked me to take over for Andy. I think it would have bon 2 years into me being here.
Yeah, I think
but
so.
To that point, that was the biggest thing that I had done. And, I had to kind of go out of bounds for that. I know I probably ruffled a few feathers in the process of doing that. So I was kind of wondering, I've sacrificed a little bit in terms of trying to be available when beat guys need to reschedule stuff, but I didn't really know, because you don't want to go out of your way to ask like whether or not you feel appreciated. And when you're the lowest guy on the totem pole, it's like, I don't know. Especially when you're working in a virtual capacity, it's tough to gauge how people are actually feeling about you.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you asked me to do that, that was a big moment of vindication for me in terms of my future and feeling good about what I was doing here, that I was doing something right. And earlier this year, I got asked to be on one of the UFC's official podcasts for the Gambler's Perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done guest spots on a lot of other different shows since then in the MMA betting space. And the feedback I keep getting consistently is like, people are surprised at how camera ready and comfortable I am doing this and enjoy doing content with me, and have expressed interest in doing more and getting me more opportunities to do that, especially because some other people that they've talked to in the space that, they just say sometimes they have to get them more comfortable in terms of just prepping them to talk on camera or whatever. Yeah. That feedback I've gotten is a testament to you giving me the opportunity to do this every week. It's why I've been able to be successful in my own pursuits away from 11 Warriors doing similar stuff.
I appreciate you saying that, man.
I owe you so much in terms of the person I have become in creating content for sports in the 2 years since I've been doing this. I really owe you a lot of credit for what I've done and anything that I'm going to be doing in the future. It has been an absolute pleasure talking with you every week. I am sincerely going to miss it. It's become a constant in my life. It's something that it's not something I got to do every Sunday night. It's something I get to do Sunday night, is I get to talk to Johnny for at least an hour about Ohio State sports or whatever else. And I am going to miss it. I'm going to enjoy whatever is going to come next, but it's going to be different. And it is going to be a little bit weird in the beginning when it's gone, just because I've gotten so used to doing it every week for the last 2 years. And it's been a sincere pleasure. And I'm sure it's going to be even weirder for you, given you've done it for 15 as opposed
well,
to
no,
2.
I mean, I am going to miss it. And first of all, I appreciate that. I mean, that's incredibly nice of you to say. It's the same, man. Like you do have like a connection to that, and you don't want to give that up. You know what I mean? And it is hard. And I will say that, it's been something I've been thinking about for a while. This is definitely not something that's been a spur of the moment decision. And part of the reason why I continue to do it is because I enjoy it so much, right? Like I enjoy having these conversations with you, every week. Like it's a lot of fun. So again, I appreciate that, and I totally understand what you're saying. But I also don't think you should sell yourself short. You're really good at this, and so there's a reason why you're on the MMA podcast and all that stuff. Like you're good at this. So I think that you deserve all the flowers that you're going to get. Okay, a couple more things I got to say here before we get out. First of all, I got a few more thanks I got to give. Okay, first, very important thanks is my wife. Okay, my wife Courtney. I mentioned this I think earlier in the podcast, but yeah, it's like two things have been going on in my life, for as an adult that have been like super long, and one's my association with 11 Warriors, and just slightly less than that is my relationship with my wife. We've been together for a long time now, I think since like 2011. We've been married for less than that, but we've been in a relationship for a long time, and she has been nothing but supportive and understanding and helpful. And, she's been my biggest advocate and just done everything. Like, it's not easy to like say, hey, I got to dip for a couple hours every week, especially when you're like,
all right, honey, I got to go talk to George for 2 hours about some bullshit.
Yeah. And it's like, especially when you've got a new house and a kid and like, and again, she's just been nothing but supportive and awesome and understanding and giving us some good ideas from time to time. I mean, she rules. I love her so much. She's a fantastic human being, and I'm eternally lucky to have her.
Have you ever told the story of how you two met on the show?
I don't think so. I mean, we were.
I think if you can, real quick, you should, because I think it's a pretty powerful one.
I don't think how we met's that interesting, but how we ended up getting together is something I think about a lot. Yeah, we were living just across the hall in the same apartment building, and we like kind of introduced ourselves when I first moved in, but I didn't really have a lot of contact with her after I was starting teaching, right? Like, so I was just overwhelmed. Like I would, I'd go to school at 7:00. I'd come back home at 8, just, exhausted. And like, I'm trying to make lesson plans on the fly and doing all this other crap. And so I was just under, losing, I was underwater. I was just like, oh my God. And anyway, that first year came and went, and it was like, okay, whatever, kind of uneventful. And I was chilling out in my apartment during the summer, and as a teacher, I was doing nothing, just staring into space, playing Skyrim or something. I don't know. And I heard Courtney moving out, and I hadn't talked to her in months, like literally just like passing in the hallway or something like that. Like we had we weren't even really friends at the time per se, but it's not like we were, antagonistic or anything. It was just like, friendly hello, whatever, from time to time. And I heard her moving out, and I had two options. I could continue sitting on my couch and doing nothing, or I could get up and say, hey, do you need some help moving stuff out? And I chose the latter. And I usually don't. I'm usually kind of a private guy, and I'm okay with kind of being a loner and whatnot, but for whatever reason, I just decided to get off my ass and help out. And that one thing led to another, and we ended up dating, and then getting engaged, and then getting married, and buying a house, and having a kid. And like, my point is that if I had not made that decision, if I had just like, I got to level up a couple more times before I want to, talk to anybody, I wouldn't have done any of that. None of that would have happened. And that's something that I think about on a regular basis.
That's why I insisted you should tell it. That's a pretty powerful story, just in terms, people make jokes about shooting your shot all the time.
You got it. Yeah, you're right.
That's a perfect example of, if you hadn't taken the initiative in that moment, how different would your life have been? You would have had no idea. You had no idea you were living across from your wife for a year.
Right. Exactly.
It's unbelievable how something like that just happens. I think it's one of the cooler stories, honestly, that I've heard in terms of how a couple comes together.
Yeah, and especially since, like, again, I'm usually not that guy. I'll let that kind of stuff slide sometimes, but that time I didn't, and I'm really, really glad I did. So, Courtney, thank you so much. I know you can probably hear part of this because I'm really loud, even though, but I really do. Seriously, she's been fantastic and so understanding. I also want to thank my mom for listening to every episode. I don't know why you're doing this.
Oh my!
I appreciate it.
I wish I had known that.
I appreciate it. You don't need to.
Okay.
At least not anymore. But thank you for also being, again, a huge supporter and advocate for myself and just a great mom. Any of my other family members who might be happening to listen to this, I appreciate it as well. So thank you so much. Okay, a couple final thoughts from me. I'm going to get out of here on a few points I want to make, and you're going to listen to them. Okay. General sports media thought. All right. Expect more from sports media. Okay. Don't convince yourself that the slop that you're being served is actually good just because that's what you're getting. All right. And I say this on the heels of the news that like Dave Portnoy, right, is going to be on Big Noon Kickoff, which that guy sucks. Like, he just sucks. As a human being, he sucks. As a personality, he sucks. As a pizza reviewer, he sucks. Basically, he just.
And that's before you factor any of the Michigan stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, and again, whatever. He's successful. I'm sure he'd say I suck and then sick a million of his stoolies on me.
Well, we alluded to 10 cutest Buckeye co-eds on campus or whatever earlier in the show. It's like, yeah, he's successful, but what's the back of his media empire built on? You know what I mean?
Right. It's built on just dumb frat boy crap that requires no thought. It's never required thought. And like even the stupid pizza stuff is like, hey, I ate a piece of pizza, it's good. All right, bye. Like that's his review. And like, expect more. Okay? Like if the idea of a guy like Portnoy or any of the other bloviating idiots like Desmond Howard or anybody else, if that makes you miserable when they're on television, it's because it is. It's because it's miserable that they're on television, and that's
you don't have to watch.
And you don't have to watch. That's my point. When they do that, when television executives do that, when they put those types of people on TV, they're telling you what they think of you as a consumer. They think you're dumb. They think you're stupid, and then that's all you need, right? The lowest common denominator. And your best response, as George just said, is to just tune out. You don't have to watch Big Noon Kickoff. You don't have to watch it. All right. You don't have to watch Game Day if you don't like the people. You don't have to watch it. Okay. And don't, because just because it's there doesn't mean you have to consume it. I think that's really, really important. By that same token, I also think that people, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, embrace weirdness. Okay. Give writers and creators kind of the grace to try new stuff. All right. Even if it fails, even if it sucks. Okay. Because otherwise we might as well just read box scores or just cede all air in the room to people saying the dumbest crap. Okay. Like, allow people to try stuff, allow it to be weird. One of my least favorite thing that I always saw on the website in the off season is somebody in the commenters going like, must be the off season. I'm like, yeah, we're trying new stuff. It's trying to be weird. If you don't like it, that's cool, but you should appreciate the effort. Because otherwise, stare at a blank wall for 4 months, right? While you're waiting for new content. Like, I'm sorry, allow people to be weird. Okay. That's really important to me. Another thing that's really important to me is don't pay for sports information that promises quote unquote access. Okay. And what I mean by that is,
who could you possibly be referring to when you say something like that?
It's nobody specific, but I am saying no, it's not, because there's a lot of websites, Ohio State, other sports or otherwise, that say pay $13.99 a month and you'll know more than someone else. And I'm telling you guys, most of the people who say that are lying out their ass. Okay.
Or pay $1 for the first month and then get automatically charged an annual subscription.
Yes, correct. Yes, right, exactly.
Because one of our disgraced journalists is returning to the site after a month away, and we're having a flash sale.
Right. So that kind of stuff just does not sit well with me at all. I understand the impulse to want to have that kind of information, and sometimes it's legit. Sometimes people do have that kind of information. There are people who are insiders, but more often than not, especially when people try to pretend like they have this whole cloak and dagger routine, they're not. They do not have the information that they claim to. And frankly, a site like 11 Warriors, you're going to be just as informed, okay, as any other place. And I'm not even saying that just to like advertise 11 Warriors. There's other websites that provide good content too, and it's not just related to college sports. But a lot of these places are just trying to get your monthly subscription, and they'll do any kind of advertising that they can to do that. And they'll string you along with, new things and saying like, oh, report from practice. Like, It's the same stuff everybody else has.
The Wild West era of the internet will end one day, but the number one unwritten rule is still never pay for something that you can get for free.
100%. And I feel like there's just way too many people doing that. Okay, last thing I want to say, and this is just kind of a general thing. Maybe not something I always live up to myself, but I try to. But it's something that I think is really important. It isn't hard to be a good person. It's not. It really isn't. And what I mean by that is like actually doing the things that are nice for other people to help other people out generally aren't that hard, right? Like you can say nice things to people. You can, throw a couple bucks somebody's way who needs it. You can volunteer and play. Like these aren't things that actually are difficult. What is very difficult sometimes is making the decision to do those things, in part because, and we just talked about it with, the Ohio State documentary, the wrestling, all that stuff, making the decision to actually take that risk, to actually do those good things can be difficult because of the people around you. You might be being told that like, oh, if you do this, like if you treat somebody nicely, or you don't respond in a certain way, or you do respond positively to someone who usually gets made fun of or something like that, you're going to face ostracization or peer pressure because of that choice that you made. And that makes that choice hard. Okay. But it doesn't mean the actual action is hard. And I think what people need to understand is that once you get beyond that fear of doing the right thing, you'll find that doing the right thing is actually incredibly easy to do. Okay. And so I know that's kind of like speaking in non-specific terms. And obviously there's details that go into everything. But once you get beyond that fear of ostracization or that fear of, maybe somebody's going to like make fun of me, or maybe I'm not fitting into a certain niche by acting in a different way. Once you get over that, it becomes a lot easier to make good choices for the sake of other people. And I think the other thing that's kind of important is to seek out people who are willing to do that. I just remember specifically, I think I might have mentioned him on the Dubcast before, but I kind of was inspired by this guy. And it's funny because like, it's not like we were super tight, and I'm not friends with him now really, but there was at my high school, I had a really small graduating class. We only had 70 kids in my graduating class. There were 30 guys. That's it. We were all pretty tight with each other. Like we weren't best friends, but everybody got pretty much along with each other. The captain of the basketball team, he was also the captain of the football team. He was all state in our division, like at Division 3 or whatever. He had every opportunity to be a dick, right? But every day he made the decision to talk with everybody. I mean, he was friends with everybody, and not because he was like trying to like make himself feel better or pump. Like he just genuinely was a cool guy. And I was like, this guy has transcended the need for like he could have gotten more adulation or whatever, or attention. And it's like mentally, he just didn't care. He was like, I don't care. I just want to be a chill dude. And I was like, he had every right, not right, but he had every reason to be a jerk. And he chose to say, no, I don't actually have to do that. And instead was just a good dude. And I'm like, I want to have that level of self-confidence in my life where I can not have to worry about what other people say or think or things like that. I'm just going to choose to be a good guy and do good things. And I don't care what other people say or think about that decision. It doesn't make me feel bad. It doesn't make me feel insecure.
And I'm going to shave how I want to shave.
Exactly. That's what I've been trying to say.
That's what it means.
Try it once. It will change your life. Anyway, sorry for the big rant, but it is something that matters to me.
It's your show, man. You've earned it.
Hey, last thing. Ohio State rules, Michigan drools. I will probably be back once the NCAA levies their punishment on Michigan. So I won't be gone too long. Yeah, it's been real. For everyone who's ever read or listened to anything that I've ever written or produced or created, thank you so much. I don't care if you liked it or not. I don't care if you hate it or not. Just the fact that you engaged with it is important to me. So thank you. Oh, and last thing, I'm not done. I'm still going to be writing. I'm still going to be maybe talking. We'll see. That will definitely be coming out here, like I said, the next couple weeks. I'm going to be around. And I will still be writing. I'll still give my opinions on things. I'll still be writing about things. Some of it may surprise you. but don't think this is like I'm fading into the ether, because that's not going to happen. I'm still be sticking around. So keep an eye out for the next thing from me. But yeah, it's been real, man. And George, like I said, I couldn't ask for a better co-host. I've had so much fun doing this. Thank you so much. And good luck to you, sir, with whatever you need in the future, whatever you're going to do. I
appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you for all you've done for me and for 11 Warriors. And it's been a real pleasure. And, I will do my best to carry on the Dubcast legacy in concrete terms or merely in spirit, but we will see what the future holds. And I can only hope that I'll have something resembling as much of an impact on this place during my time here as you have as one of its core components for the last decade and a half. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this space that you created with you. I told you last week, but you really are as much as, you heard from one of the listeners tonight, they called you one of the best Ohio State podcast hosts in the space. You are a pioneer. You recognize the value here long before anybody else. Before that Time Warner deal or whatever, you were like, hey, maybe we should be doing something other than written content. And people were like, whatever. And now we're getting company sponsored microphones and ring lights and all sorts of gadgets to, put our thoughts out on Ohio State sports in ways other than strictly written word. So you are an innovator and a pioneer in the Ohio State media sphere, and you should be recognized as such. And even if other people won't do it, I'll do it for them.
Yeah, that's right. Damn it. Thank you so much, George. Seriously, I do seriously appreciate it. You're going to kill it. It's going to be great. And I'm excited to see what happens next. So until then, I'm Johnny.
I'm George.
Peace out.
Go Bucks. Take care, folks.